Hey, everybody, Tim here, amateur radio call sign, November Whiskey 9 Foxtrot. In the past few days, Radioddity has released some more information on the Xiegu X6200 that is scheduled to be released sometime in early 2024. So let's go ahead and go on over to their website. We're going to take a look at what they've published so far and kind of compare that to the 6100 and see what we can look forward to. So going over to their website, they have a page set up, probably ready to go, you know, when they do release these things. There are some images and there's some specifications in here. I do want to point out that this is based on pre-production prototypes, and this information is subject to change as the final product is released. But as you go over here, one thing I do want to point out on their website, there is a nice box right here to type in your email address so you can get notified by Radioddity when this does become available. So looking at the front of the radio, now this is a computer-generated rendering, so there might be some differences in there. Very similar layout to the 6100. There is some slight differences. One is the integration of the handles now that sit up high enough to protect the knobs. On the 6100, there is a kit that you can buy. Radioddity does sell that on their website, and I will put a link to that down below too, which is something I actually have on my 6100 here, which is pretty cool and does what it needs to do and gives you a place to hang on to. So on the front of the radio, the display, same 4-inch display as the 6100. There is a slight difference in how this is laid out. A little bit more information on here than what was on the 6100, which is a nice addition, primarily around the filters and being able to see where your filters are at. The general layout is the same. Speaker is in the same place. They do have a different type grill on there than what they had in the 6100. Kind of give it, I think, maybe a little bit more of a retro look. Same thing with the handles. The VFO knob is in the same place. What is missing from here is the lock button, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We have the same 5 buttons down the front for navigating the menu system. We also have the 2 multifunction knobs here on the top and bottom, same position. The top one still looks like it does volume, squelch, and RF gain. And the bottom one is the multifunction knob that you would use to select different menu items and in the menu system if you had it brought up on the screen. Now a little bit different set of buttons here in the middle. In the 6100, it's a 2x3 grid that runs vertical. This is more of a 3x2 grid that's horizontal. Same function buttons that are here are basically in the same order. So not much of a difference here other than how they are laid out on the front of the radio. Similar picture without the display. Now we're starting to see a little bit different here. Once again, like the 6100 with the add-on handles, these sit up above the knobs to provide some extra protection. Here on the right-hand side, we have essentially the same items that we have on the 6100. So we have a port, a USB-C port for host, and that's if you want to connect keyboards, mice, and other devices. Keep in mind, this radio, it's a software-defined receiver, so it actually is a small Linux-based computer that is driving the underlying operation of the radio. We have a device port, so if you want to connect your radio to your computer for rig control and digital modes, you have that available. There's the SD card slot, and that's where you would do your firmware updates. There's a third-party Xiegu software developer. It's not a Xiegu developer, but he's a third-party amateur radio operator that writes firmware for the radio. And it's kind of a neat thing, and I'll put links to his website down below. What's nice about that is you can install it, and it's like a bootable SD card, and it boots off of it, and it doesn't interfere with the firmware that's currently installed on the radio. So you can actually switch between the factory Xiegu firmware or the third-party firmware. Right behind that, we have the microphone jack. And then we have our 3.5 millimeter jacks, bottom one being for the speaker or headphones, middle one if you wanted to connect an external CW key to the radio, and the one on top is the accessory cable that you would use to connect it to an external amplifier. So on this photo, we see something that's new. And one of the nice things about the 6200 is that you're now able to connect some external components or devices to it. Now, they haven't released what those are yet, but I think it's probably safe to say that transverters is something that you will be able to connect. And on a side note, the third-party firmware that I had talked about, there's already support in there for transverters, and they're not available yet in the 6100. And I'm not sure of how you would connect them. So maybe he knows something that the rest of us don't know, because there's already support for that in there. So something to definitely look forward to. And that would be kind of nice, because then that would give you the ability to do 2 meters and 70 centimeters and have this compete a little bit more with the like the IC705. For example, because it would do all mode and all bands. Here on the left side of the radio, we see the traditional BNC out for your antenna. And so there's also a port down here for external power. From a top-down view here, the push-to-talk button, band, and modes buttons are the same as the 6100. The right-hand side is a little bit different. There's another one of these removable covers for external components. And because that is there, we've lost 3 of those buttons. The AB and the ones that are silkscreen or printed on the case versus the button themselves indicate it's basically a long press of the button to get that feature. So we can shift between the A and the B, or you can make A and B the same. We have the ATU, and then the long press would be the tuner to tune, ATU turning it on and off. And then the third one is the fast button, which allows you to shift which position you want the VFO to turn, whether you want it megahertz or the kilohertz. And then the lock button, they've removed from the front of the radio, and it was in, between the VFO and the bezel of the display. Now it is up here, so I'm assuming if you press the FST button, long press it, you will lock the VFO on this radio. So here we're getting into some pre-production actual shots of the radio from Radioddity. And as you can see, very similar to the computer renditions of it. Display, same size. We do have looks like external power that they're using, and they've got a USB cable connected to the device port. Now, something that does look a little bit different from the 6100, looking at this multifunction knob, it looks to be a 2-stage knob now, where before it was just a single knob. So it looks like you can maybe control 2 functions with the inner and outer knob. Not sure if that's the same up here for the top multifunction knob, but we can look at some further pictures. So we have a side profile, nothing labeled on this one, but once again, pre-production model. Now it does have the same kickstand style stand as the 6100 does, and so there's these kickouts that you can flip out to with a D10 in there, which will allow you to stand the radio up on a table, which is kind of nice. So going back to the pictures, next one, just the other side, power connector and the BNC antenna connector, and another front shot of it, and a top-down shot. So this one is marked external component. Okay, here's another one, and this right here is probably the biggest improvement, at least visually, that we can see over the 6100, and that is a detachable battery. Xiegu took a lot of flack over having a non-serviceable battery compartment And you could open up the battery compartment. The problem is that they have a warranty sticker on there that would void your warranty if you did open it up. Like anything else, all mechanical products are prone to failure at some point, and they've had some battery issues. And unfortunately, when you have a battery issue on essentially what is a sealed compartment, you have to send it back to Xiegu to get that replaced. And you have to send your whole radio. With a bad battery, you can still operate off of external power. So this is nice. By having this detachable battery unit, you can now remove the battery and send it out. Or what I think is probably going to be the case is that the third-party manufacturers, and maybe even Xiegu, now can build an extended battery, which can give you more time. I don't know if they can give you more power, but they can give you definitely more time to either, to run the battery or run the radio longer. All right, well, that concludes the picture part of our tour here. So going back to their website, once again, put your email in here. They will let you know when it does become available. But I did want to come down here to some of the highlights. There are some changes to this. I do want to preface that these specifications are pre-production, and I don't know if they will change between now and the time that the actual radio comes out. There is a disclaimer down here on the bottom that all this is prototypes, and Radioddity is working, doing their best to get as much information and get it updated as it becomes available. But some of the highlights that I did kind of want to cover here, obviously the big thing, the detachable battery pack, that right there is huge. If anything, if you are thinking about getting a 6100, maybe upgrading from the G90 to this radio, because it is a little bit easier, more compact to carry, I think I would probably hold off until the 6200 came out just for this feature right there alone, and that's the detachable battery pack. Most of the functionality, I think, isn't gonna change, but a couple of things they have added in the reception side that was not available before, and that is wide FM broadcast reception. That is pretty good. So you're going to be able to pick up commercial FM broadcasts, at least here in the United States and Canada. I'm not sure about other markets or other ITU regions. The other thing that they've added is the aviation band reception. I believe is AM, and that is in at least this part of the world, 108 to 136 megahertz. So you will be able to pick those up now where you wouldn't get those in the 6100. All the operating modes are the same. Something that did kind of stand out, I hope this is a misprint, on external power, 8 watts, plus or minus 1 dB. We'll see how that goes. Keep an eye on that to make sure, see what happens as more information comes out. Current consumption, I was just actually looking at this the other day on the 6100 with an inline meter for myself, and I think I was standby was roughly about 500 milliamps, and transmission I was running 10 watts on FT8, and I was pulling about 2.8 amps. So within tolerance, some variation in meters and stuff like that. And those were my numbers using the Slink 10 in the field with the 6100 BioNO 20 amp hour battery. Generally, everything stays the same. I think the dimensions, and this is approximate, I believe the dimensions of the radio might be just a hair bigger. If we go over to the 6100 spec sheets, they say they're 180 by 86 by 49 millimeters. And on the 6200, they are 200 by 89 by 51 meters. So this millimeters, I'm sorry. So this might be 20 millimeters longer. I don't know what that equates to in American, but maybe an inch. The one other thing that does kind of stand out to me that I wanted to talk about too, which not a super big deal. Keeping in mind, depending on what kind of antenna you're running, your mileage will vary. But they say in here on the impedance range for the tuning, 200 ohms to 175 ohms. That's roughly 3.5 to 1. Now, generally internal antenna tuners are about a 3 to 1. Some of the, you get into external antenna tuners, they've got a little bit more room to put componentry in, and you can sometimes find those all the way up to 10 to 1. So 3.5 to 1 is not bad. It's better, but on the 6100, if we look at that, their range is 1 to 4.5 to 1. So it can do a slight bit better. Now, once again, these are pre-production numbers, and this may be or may not be a typo, so I don't know. The tuner does seem to be a little bit more efficient in getting ready. Initial tuning time is less than or equal to 10 seconds on the 6100. It was 15 seconds, so a little bit faster tuning time there potentially with this tuner, and it might be because it has a smaller, kind of a dynamic range than the one in the 6100. The antenna tuner tuning read time, and that's basically just analyzing it and seeing what it is for that, is less than or greater than 1/10 of a second. On the 6100, it is 2/10 of a second. So tuner seems to be a little bit better, not as dynamic, but once again, we will have to wait and see because it is a pre-production model. So those are really the kind of the key highlights, the pictures, the ability to add some external devices that was not available in the 6100. Probably the biggest feature that I think right now is the ability to have a removable battery. So you can have multiple batteries with you in the field that you can swap in and out, or if you have to have a problem with your battery or you need an extend battery, you can easily move that out. Then the 2 ports that we have on the body of the radio to allow external devices, we still do not know what those are, but hopefully those will be available here soon. So that's this radio in a nutshell. Once again, I will put a link to this page in here down below, and also there's a link in there for a discount for Radioddity for anything that's on their website. If you just click that, it'll give you a code. And if you have any questions or comments, please put those in the comment section down below. I want to hear what you think about this radio. And if you own the 6100, are you going to invest in this one? Or if you have a G90, or if this is your first radio, let me know down below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this content with your friends. And hopefully one day we'll catch you on the air. But until then, I have a video right over here that I think you might be interested in.